Anyway, this is David Cardwell from Indianapolis, and of course Zach, still from Illinois.
Illinois, huh? All right. So Dave and I are going to be discussing a concept that all of you have probably heard before, but a lot of people tend to ignore it. And basically, we're going to be distinguishing the difference between listening and hearing. Now, when you're hearing someone who's improvising or someone who's soloing, it becomes very, very, very obvious whether or not they are actually listening to what's going on behind them. A lot of times, especially with guitar players and guitar soloists, is they just kind of want to, they do the flashy stuff and it doesn't really match the music. It doesn't emphasize any part of it. And it doesn't sound connected to the song. In the end, that's what matters. You want the song to express whatever you created it to express. So before we go any further, we need just to define the difference between hearing and listening. Now, hearing is when you hear a noise. You could, be hearing my voice right now. You can hear anything. You can hear the guitar playing. Listening is when you are actively paying attention to what you're hearing and deciphering it. If you're improvising, you're listening to the backing track or the band that's playing behind you, and you're playing notes and you're choosing melodies that are going to fit that. If you're just hearing it and playing notes, it's going to sound like, the band's in a different room over there and I'm over here just kind of randomly playing some melodies. It's not going to sound connected at all.
So first of all, we'll start out with a relatively simple example with a change between 4/4 and 6/8. So I'll get this track started and count it out. So first we got the 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it switches to 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now Zach is going to play over it and try to nail that 6/8 change. Here comes the 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So as Dave's playing, just pay attention to the way he's constructing his phrase to fit and match the changing rhythms. When it's 4/4, he's playing a certain way. When it's a 6/8, he's playing to emphasize those rhythms. Kind of 4/4 right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you could hear how he's choosing to change his melodic ideas in order to fit that. Now that brings up something that Tom mentioned earlier in this presentation, where he was. You want to make sure that you are actively choosing what you are playing. Now that may sound kind of weird because you think, well, I'm playing a scale, I'm playing this, I'm choosing to do that. But you want to have the control over your guitar playing and your musicianship to be able to, whether we're playing over this rhythm and you want to acknowledge it, or if you want to just completely ignore it. Now, either way is completely fine, and what we're demonstrating is paying attention to the rhythm changes in a way that makes that kind of reinforces the feel of that. And if we wanted to completely ignore it, if I just wanted to sit up here and, for the purpose of the song, I wanted to just shred or, do whatever, it's still perfectly okay. But you want to make sure that you are having the mental control over what you are playing to actively choose whether or not. Because if you don't have the choice, it's just kind of like you're just be sitting here playing something. That sounds cool. I'm gonna use it. There's no real thought behind anything.
The next example we're going to be going over is a change between 7/8 and 5/4. So this is a much more complex example that's not very similar to what most people play over most of the time. And we chose this one to really emphasize nailing an unusual change. There's no way you'd be able to nail this unless you're really listening to it. So I'll start it and count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Cool. So now when I begin playing this melody, it's going to be demonstrating an exercise that you all can play over whatever style of music you are. And that's playing one note per measure as your melody. And what that does is it forces you both mentally and physically to lock in specifically to the rhythms that are being played. Now I'm just gonna go ahead.
Just in case you've gotten lost, I'll count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How he's compressing his melodic ideas for the 7/8 because it's shorter, and then when the 5/4, the longer rhythm is coming out, he's elongating those melodic ideas and maybe holding some notes or just making his phrase incorporate more notes.
So the core thing that I want you to take away from what Zach and Dave were talking about is that even though the examples that they gave, especially the last one, was in odd meter or more progressive in nature, something you might find in like Dream Theater or Symphony X or progressive bands or whatever, maybe Rush or something like that. The ideas are applicable to any style of music, whether it's blues and 4/4 or rock or jazz or whatever. This is not specific to a style. It's an idea for a way of thinking and a way of listening and then a way of reacting to whatever the music is. If we think about the term playing in the pocket, maybe you've heard that term before, and it's a term that usually it's usually applied to bass players when we want bass players to really lock in with the drums. So when the kick drum occurs and the drummer's accenting on a certain beat or a certain part of the measure, the bass player is locking in with that and emphasizing that, and they're together in a unit, and they're playing in the pocket, they're playing tight, they're playing together. Okay. Now, guitar players, lead guitar players particularly, have a bad habit, and I think we've all been guilty of it at some point, of just sort of treating the rhythm section, bass, drums, maybe keyboards, rhythm guitar, as sort of a platform for us to go off and do our thing. Like it's showcase time to, burn some licks or whatever. And although that can be fun, it may not be the best way to serve the song and really integrate, with the track itself. And a lot of the better players, or at least players who I consider to be better players, are conscious of the song that's going on. They're not just going off and doing whatever. When there are important changes or important accents, very often the guitar players are paying attention to that and adjusting their phrasing to match that, or to at least acknowledge it, or to tighten things up. Okay. Now a lot of players that maybe have less experience, or even those who are experienced but don't really pay attention to it, it just tends to sound, even though what they're playing is cool, they're using the song as a platform to do their thing instead of having their lead playing really serve the track, serve the song. And as Zach pointed out, it should be a choice which one of those you want to do when. It shouldn't be that you're always on autopilot or default, which is just that you just go off and do your own thing, and you're totally oblivious to what's going on in the track of the song. So if you're just aware of it, if you just ask yourself the question, what are the interesting changes here? Even if the meter never changes, where are the important moments within the measure or within the phrase or within the section. And, you know, can I, in a rhythmic sense, control my phrasing or have that influence my phrasing in a way that's going to make the song overall better? And that's an important question to ask yourself. I know that's something that, you know, that these guys do, and Randy certainly does, you know, and Mike and Paul and the other Paul, etc. So something I would encourage you all to think about in your own playing when you're practicing, improvising, writing solos, creating melodies, all of those things. It's a very, very useful tool. It's just simple awareness. There's no big secret there other than just simply asking yourself some basic questions.
Cool. Very cool.
Thanks, guys. Okay.